What would you do if you were just hanging out at home one day, and all of a sudden your mom started to die? You'd be pretty freaked out. I think any normal person would. However, when this happens to a young boy, he has no idea that as he watches his mother die, an unlikely savior will appear out of nowhere. And then we take a look at a terrifying story that will make every single person on the planet Earth wonder, is it possible that President Donald Trump is actually a bloodthirsty werewolf looking for fresh flesh? Today on Dead Rabbit Radio. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Dead Rabbit Radio. I'm your host, Jason Carpenter. I'm having a great day. I hope you guys are having a great day too. I hope you guys are having tons of fun doing whatever you're doing. We got a ton of stuff to cover today, so first off, running into Dead Rabbit Radio Command. Everyone get on your feet and give it up for one of our newest Patreon supporters, Video Ouija. Woohoo! People always say I mispronounce that word, but I don't think so. It's like a Ouija board. Video Ouija's like shrugging his shoulders. He's like, I guess that's my name. Come on in. No one touch him though. No one put a planchette on his chest. We don't want to talk to demons. Video Ouija is walking into Dead Rabbit Radio Command. He's our newest Patreon supporter. That is why he is going to be our captain, our pilot this episode. If you guys can't support the show financially through the Patreon or the merch store or anything like that, it's totally fine. It really is. Just help spread the word about Dead Rabbit Radio. That helps out so much. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell everyone you know. Dead Rabbit Radio is your favorite paranormal show. That is how you can help the show grow. Let's go ahead and get this party started. Video Ouija, come over here. Come over here. Let me touch your chest. I have this planchette I just made. A long time ago, my sister made a homemade Ouija board with like a piece of cardboard and a cardboard planchette. And I remember looking at it and I go, well, that would work. There's nothing about the wood having to be blessed or the wood having to be cursed or it having to be made of any sort of specific material. Technically, that would work. You could make a Ouija board out of anything. Technically, you could wear a shirt with the alphabet on it and walk around. That actually sounds like a good way to pick up girls at a club. Go to a club. Go to a hip club, right? All the ladies are dancing. You have a shirt with the alphabet on it. And you give them a planchette. You're like, this is a terrible idea, Jason. You probably get stopped by security. They're like, why do you have a piece of wood in your pocket? You go, I'm just happy to see you. They're like, oh, okay, go on in. You walk around and you hand the planchette to the ladies. And you go, put it on me. Put it on my body. Put it on my body. And I will tell your future. And so they put it on your body, you're all ticklish, you're all you have a tickling fetish, you're like, oh, finally, I figured out a way to get people to tickle me in public. They put the planchette on you and they start rubbing it around your chest. So you'll have to suppress your moaning, gentlemen. Don't start going, oh, while they're doing it. You save that for later. You can save the moan for later. You're all bottled it up. The second you walk out of the club, you let out a moan that echoes through the city. Oh! They save it up, and they rub your chest with the planchette, and you can't even see what they're spelling because the shirt's on you. But afterwards you go, oh yeah, so anyways, you contacted your dead grandpa. They're all crying. They're like, oh, Gramps, oh, I miss you so much. We always used to play pickleball together. Yeah, your dead grandpa was talking to me. He's really loud because the music's really loud in the club. The ghost was screaming in my ear, and he says that you should start dating me. It was really weird. He said I was a pretty cool guy. And he said, you and me might have a love connection. The girl will be like, well, you know, Gramps is always right. So, yeah, sure, I'll date you. And then you turn to the camera and you wink. But you can't say anything. Because if you open your mouth, you'll let out a moan that echoes throughout the city. So you're just all... She's like, so what do you do for a living? You're just... can't say anything the rest of the night. You're like, oh, I gotta go outside real quick. Oh! Loudest moan ever. That's free advice. See, that's why Dead Rabbit Radio is important. You think you're going to hear a ghost story. She got some advice on how to pick up the ladies. That has to be worth telling your friends about. You're like, Jason, this is why I don't recommend this show. Hey, I listen to a podcast. What's it about? I don't know. I mean, ghosts, I guess. I'll talk about them occasionally. If this works, you got to name your kids after me. Video Ouija, I'm going to go ahead and toss you the keys. Let's get this party started. I'm going to toss you... Let's go ahead and toss you the steam shovel for the Carpenter Caboose. Everyone climb on board as Video Ouija puts on this little hat, little engineer outfit, and begins shoveling coal as he takes us out of Dead Rabbit Radio Command and chugs us all the way out to a little boy's house. Chugga, 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 choo, choo. We're headed out to this family's home. We don't have an exact location or names, but we're going to call the oldest kid Joey. And by oldest, he's still a little guy. He's only 7. Then he has a younger brother. We'll call him Brian, who is 5. And they live in this home with their mother. Now, their mom, ever since she was 11 years old, you're all writing these notes down your way. You're like, what, an 11-year-old gave birth to a 7-year-old? No, pay attention. Pay attention. Because when I looked over at my notes, I was like, wow, it's a young mother. No, when she was 11, she had type 1 diabetes. And that would suck, right? The worst of all diabetes, I think. I think type 1's worse. And she had it since she was a kid. And it's caused lifelong health complications. And Joey is totally aware of this, right? If your mom has diabetes, Halloweens must suck. There's probably a lot of stuff you can't do. Mom, can we go to Dairy Queen? No, if I even drive by that place, I die. Hey, Mom, excuse, your kids are constantly, hey, can I have this brand new skateboard? No. Not only do I have diabetes, I'm also allergic to skateboards. No skateboards. If we go to that store, I die as well. You're all, oh, Mom, I love you. Don't die. It must be hard having a mom who has type 1 diabetes. But anyways, well, it is hard because in this story, it's not about whether or not the kid's going to have candy. One day, Joey's walking around the house, and he walks into Mom's bedroom, and she's sitting there. Hey, Joey, what's on the television, man? He's like, Mom, are you okay? Joey, if a lion walked in the room right now, do you think it would hug me? He's like, what? Yo, Jason, that's not... People with type 1 diabetes don't become Snuffleupagus. What's with that weird voice? Hey, Joey, as my oldest child, I have a question for you. Is porridge and oatmeal the same thing? He's like, what are you talking about, Mom? He doesn't say that she asked any of those questions. He just said she looked disoriented and was acting drunk. And she wasn't super responsive. Mom, why are you looking so weird? Huh? But, Mom, what's the matter? You look out of it. Huh? Joey? Huh? And Joey is not me. Joey's raised in the house with a woman who has type 1 diabetes. He realizes, oh my God, my mom is having a bad reaction. She needs insulin. So he runs and he gets one of her insulin needles and injects her with it. And it doesn't work. She's just kind of sitting there, still zoning out. And he's like, uh-oh, this thing's really bad. The insulin's supposed to stop this. But my mom's still acting all disoriented and stuff, just kind of swaying there. Joey, if a cucumber's a pickle, what happens if you put a pickle in vinegar? Does it become a cucumber again? He's like, Mom! No. He answers that question. No, it just becomes a very vinegary pickle. But please, Mom, shut up. I need to think. I need to think about what I'm going to do. Because he's super panicked. His mom's going to die. Now, what's interesting is we don't have an exact location for this story, but there are 2 clues that it doesn't take place in the United States. One, when Joey posted this online, he said, my first instinct was to call my nan, which is what people call grandma in the United Kingdom. And when he ended up calling Nan, she told him to call 999. So that's the emergency services over there as well. So I think we can deduce it's the United Kingdom, but probably, right? Anyways, he goes, Grandma, the mom's all acting all weird and stuff like that. And Nan goes, oh, call 999, sonny boy. Get the ambulance there. So he goes to call 999. But the problem is that he's so panicked about what's going on and he's so confused and he's trying to figure everything out. At this point, he's too panicked to really act. He doesn't make the phone call to 999. Instead, he sends his younger brother, Brian, run next door, talk to the neighbor. Tell him what's going on. We need help. Joey's sitting there shaking his mother. Mom, snap out of it, Mom. And she's not. She's just kind of like, Brian comes running back in and he goes, there's nobody next door. So at this point, it's just these 2 boys. Grandma knows about it, but she's not anywhere near to be able to assist at this point. Joey's like, this is it. Like, my mom's going to die. And my mom's going to die, and I'm too scared to help her. Like, I tried the insulin and that didn't work. And he's just sitting there over his mom and just trying to snap her out of it. And this goes on for about 5 minutes until a woman walks into the bedroom. It's a woman Joey has never seen before. But the woman looks at the two boys and goes, Brian, Joey, listen, I know your mom. Do not worry. Help is coming. Okay? Help will be on the way. And Joey's like, okay, awesome. Awesome. And she goes, even though I didn't know who the woman was, she spoke with such a calm and comforting voice that I knew everything was going to be okay. Well, the woman's there, and shortly after she shows up, the sound of an ambulance driving down towards their home. The EMTs show up and they're checking her and they're like, oh yes, her sugar levels are high or low. I don't know which is bad for a diabetic. I'm assuming both. Shining flashlights in her eyes and stuff like that. We need some IVs and we need some medicine. We need to start pumping her full of stuff. And the EMTs start working on her. And at that point, Joey's like completely relieved. Experts are here. People whose profession it is to save lives are now here with her. Now here with his mother. Everything's going to be okay. And at that point, he gets up from where he was at with his mother and he goes to talk to the woman who had run into the house to say thanks. She's gone. A short period of time passes. The mom is feeling better now. I don't know if this is days later. I don't necessarily think it was hours later, but Joey had talked to Brian and goes, hey, Brian, that woman who came in to help us when mom was sick, do you recognize her? And Brian's like, I've never seen her before in my life. She's not a neighbor? I mean, not that I know of. And when mom was feeling well enough, Joey told her what had happened. He goes, we came in the room and you were completely disoriented. And then this woman came in and said help is on the way. And she was right. There was an ambulance right behind her. I don't know who that woman was, and neither does Brian. And Joey describes the woman to his mother, and his mother's sitting there listening, and then she goes, I have no idea who you're talking about. But the fact of the matter is this woman that neither of them had ever seen before or since knew both the names of Brian and Joey, and was correct. The ambulance was on the way. We know Joey didn't make the phone call to 999. It's very possible, she should have done it in the first place, but that the grandmother had called 999 and sent them to her daughter's house. So either the grandmother did call 999 and Joey didn't include that in his original narrative when he posted it online underneath the name Lee's House 90. That's possible, but the other option, even if grandma did call for the ambulance, who was the woman? And how did she know what was going on? And how did she know the boys' names? So that one you kind of have just a weird visitation, like we talked on yesterday's episode, a phenomenon known as the third man effect, where humans in very, very stressful, often life-threatening situations will hallucinate an extra person there, helping them forward, not necessarily physically, but mentally. Come on, you can just take a couple more steps. You see this phenomenon happen every so often with people in extreme environments. They're lost in the middle of nowhere. They're trying to scale a mountain and bad weather is set in. All of these types of situations, you often hear about them saying, yeah, I didn't know where to go. And then all of a sudden this other hiker showed up and we just started talking and he really kind of calmed me down and we just walked together and talked. And then the next thing I know, I was back to where I knew the trail. And then I turned and the guy was gone. You'll see stories like that. I'll put that episode in the show notes. And we talked a little bit about it yesterday. This one, it could have been something like that. But what's interesting is what happens when the third man physically intervenes. In this case, remember, the woman came into the bedroom, and it's not like she was the EMT. It's not like she had a bag of medicine and was saving the mother's life. She just showed up to say, hey, boys, and she knew their names. Help is coming, and then stayed there with the boys and calmed them down. And Joey really believed at that moment mom was going to make it. And then the ambulance showed up. Did she somehow contact emergency services herself? And was this woman some sort of paranormal entity? A guardian angel? Or a time traveler? That's another theory that can pop up with these third man stories. But then we have one more of these. I thought this was a very interesting one. This one she just kind of stood there. And it helped. It helped calm the boys. And if she was the one who called the ambulance, then definitely helped the mother. But online, when someone was saying, hey, I actually have a story kind of like that, where someone was saved by a mysterious visitor, this person posted online and said, when my grandmother was a little girl, a fire broke out at their house. Now, these were all kids. They're all around 10, 12 years old who were in the house at the time. So they get out of the house and they're watching this fire consume their home when all of a sudden a firefighter shows up. But what was odd to them, they're really concerned. They're like, oh, okay, we're really not going to be picky on this thing. You're a firefighter. Our house is on fire. Help us. But the firefighter did not show up via a truck. He just walked up onto the scene. He goes, hey, kids, you got a fire in this house? And they're like, yes, obviously. I mean, look at the flames that are consuming the building. He's like, don't worry, kids, I'll help you. He said the firefighter shows up on foot, and his uniform was sparkling. Not like, not like sparkling, like magical sparkling, but it was like so clean, it looked like it would sparkle. I think that's what it means. The actual narrative, it was written sparkling clear uniform. So maybe it actually was glowing, right? I mean, like at that point, you're like, oh, it's Guardian Angel. He's showing up in sparkling clothing. He has a little halo over his head. He throws it, cuts through the fire. This firefighter in the sparkling clean uniform puts out the fire and then just walks away. So I don't know if he used like a garden hose or something like that. They didn't see. He obviously doesn't have a fire truck, and I don't think he was running down the street with a 80-pound fire hose. But he shows up, he puts the fire out, and then he walks away. Just walks down the street, and the kids are like, bye, thank you, bye. Well, just after he leaves, fire truck comes barreling down the road. The fire truck pulls up to this house that's smoldering. The firefighters jump out and they go, hey, we got to report that this house is on fire. And the kids are like, yeah, it was actually, but one of your fellow firefighters got here first and he put the fire out. And they're like, what? And they're like, yeah, he was just walking down the street. He put the fire out. And the firefighters are looking at each other. They go, first off, I'm going to tell you, none of us walked to a fire. Firefighters were the laziest of all the emergency services. Police officers constantly running. EMTs have to be good at push-ups because they're pressing down on people's ribs all the time. But us firefighters, we like to phone it in a lot. That's why we have beds at the fire station. It turns out we sleep most of the time while buildings burn. Firefighters, the laziest of all emergency technicians. He goes, listen, kid, we don't walk anywhere. We barely climb ladders. We have these mechanized ladders that lift us up. And if the ladder, they're just sitting at the bottom of it like they're Alakazam or something, Aladdin. They're like, take me away, ladder. No, I'm just joking. Firefighters are probably physically the most rigorous of all of the emergency technicians. You know, no one ever makes fun of firefighters, so I figured I'd give them a little taste of it for 30 seconds. But they didn't walk. They definitely don't walk to the scene of a fire. You'd show up and you'd be like, oh no, this building's on fire. And then you're like, oh, I don't have any of my equipment. And I left my sparkling clean uniform at the laundromat. The firefighters showed up, and sure enough, the fire was put out, but they have no idea who these kids are talking about. When the kids describe the firefighter, they go, he doesn't work for us. So, again, it's a super interesting thing. This does feel more in line with yesterday's story about the boy who was attacked by fire ants, and a clean-cut man from out of nowhere shows up with a hose and sprays the fire ants off the kid. And now we have this guy. These two, as far as some sort of third man effect, these are closer to a guardian angel. They're physically intervening in real life. Which is something you don't normally see in the paranormal. You see it in alien stories, and you see it in some cryptid stories, but usually there's just sightings of cryptids. But we're having mysterious strangers show up and save people. It's fascinating. And what I was thinking too, and I'll wrap it up like this, is you can look at it one of two ways. Is this the new wave of guardian angels? Where they are no longer taking an angelic presence in a world, I mean, listen, most of the world is still religious today. If you look at the global population, even the population of America, more people are religious than are not religious, or believe in God and an afterlife and things like that. It's still the vast majority of the planet. Even if they don't go to church, most of them do. But even if they don't attend a certain religious ceremony or a certain, mosque or church or a synagogue or something like that, temple, whatever. Most people on the planet still believe in God and the afterlife. But I wonder if, because even people today who are religious, if they saw what we consider to be a representation of an angel, a human with wings. I know they have biblically accurate angels. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about if you thought you were going to see a guardian angel, most people would think it would look like it's wearing the robes, it has the sandals, it has the wings, it has the glow. But because that's so far, even for a religious person, that's so far out of our daily experience versus 600 BC Samaria, where the idea that you could be out on your farm and see a being of infinite love showing up, because that was just the culture that you believed in, versus now someone could go, yeah, I believe in angels and I believe God, but I don't think that angels fly down and help us in times of need. The angel wouldn't appear like that. If a guardian angel was going to intervene in a life today, it probably would appear as a totally normal human. Because you can rationalize that. You can go, yeah, it was really weird. This disaster happened and this guy showed up and he helped us and then he vanished and I really don't know what to make of it. But that's a lot easier to process than my mom was having diabetes problems. And all of a sudden, me and my brother, we could barely open our eyes. The light was so blinding as this being of pure love walked into the room and said with a voice that echoed through our souls, "Don't worry, your mother's going to be okay." It's a totally different experience. It's much easier for the mind to go, yeah, this mysterious woman showed up one day. I wonder if this is the new way that guardian angels are appearing and have been appearing recently. Because that's just the way that a human mind processes these miraculous events, as opposed to in the past where you would expect it to look like a messenger from God. But then flip it on its head, because I thought about this too. What if that is not true? What if even back then, the angels did appear to people as their fellow countrymen, as their neighbors, and they would save their lives in this moment, and when they would retell the story to people, over time it began getting reinterpreted, versus, yeah, I was on my farm one day back in 600 BC Samaria, and they're all, what does the BC stand for? He goes, I don't know. I don't know either, but anyways, it was 600 BC Samaria. We were counting down to something, when all of a sudden an ox went crazy and ran me over, crushed both my legs, and then there were some wolves near my farm, and I saw them licking their lips, and I was like, I'm a goner, both my legs are broken, there's some wolves coming, when all of a sudden this guy showed up. I never saw him before, and he yelled at the wolves, get away, and it was super weird, because I yell at wolves all the time, and they don't get away, but this guy showed up. He was just really nice, actually. I thought maybe he was like a high elder in the area. I had never seen him before. But, yeah, he just showed up and he started screaming at the wolves, and the wolves ran. The wolves ran off, and he stayed with me, and he says, don't worry, someone's going to come and help you. And then sure enough, a couple of my workers found me maybe like 5-10 minutes, and they're like, what are minutes? And he goes, I don't know. I don't know what that is either. 10 clicks of the sundial later. Some of my workers found me, and they dragged me off, and here I am today. I've been listening at 600 BC. Both my legs are broken. I'm going to be hobbled for a long time. But yeah, and ever since then, those wolves have never come back. I don't know who that guy was, but he like scared them off for good. It was insane. But I'm glad that happened. He tells that story, and then over time, it becomes, yeah, a long time ago, my great-great-great-grandpa had a story where he was out in the field, and his legs got broken, and then this bright light appeared in the sky. It opened up, and a man stepped out of it. Wings that stretched farther than the farm field itself. Fascinating. But I definitely think there is something going on here. Video Ouija, let's go ahead and toss you the keys to the world. Famous Carpenter Copter were waving goodbye to the two boys and their diabetic mother. We're waving goodbye to firefighters, the world's laziest profession. Why don't you fly us all the way out to the White House? We get to the White House, and we're dressed up as Secret Service agents. We're walking around in our suits. We got little things in our ears. And they apparently have really bad security. We're just walking around. We're like, do, kind of hanging out, poking our nose in the Oval Office. And there we see President Trump walk by, and there's a bunch of, like, political nerds next to him, and they're like, the prices of wheat are too high, Mr. Trump. And someone else goes, oil is over $100 a barrel, Mr. Trump. And then there's, like, a military guy, Mr. Trump, we need more bombs. And Trump's is just walking, ignoring everybody, right? Everything's falling apart, planes are dropping out of the sky. Secret Service agents don't even have bullets in their guns to protect you, sir. We need to... And Trump just turns around and he looks at all of them and he goes, listen, everybody. I know what's going on in America, 'cause I'm Trump. I know, but I have bigger problems. Bigger problems. They're huge problems. All the advisors stop and they kind of look at each other and they go, that's weird. Like he's blowing all of us off. And that's when Donald Trump's closest friend appears. This guy that even the people who work the most with Trump in the White House, they only see him once a month. This guy pops up and he goes, no more questions, no more. They're like, we're not reporters, we work here. Our questions are demands for action to be taken. He goes, none of that either. Mr. Trump has to take a break. So everyone go back to doing what you're supposed to be doing. Yes to everything. I'm being Trump today. Yes to everything. You wanted more bombs, General? Get more bombs. What was your thing? Oil prices? Make them go down or up or whatever you want. Well, what? You were complaining about wheat? Plant more wheat, and then we don't have to worry about it. Go, go, go. This man puts his arm around Trump and walks him into a special room. Most people in the White House don't even know this room exists. Not even the most secret of the Secret Service know about this room. Walks Donald Trump into this room, and it's all paneled in oak wood. Very nice. Maybe some cherry wood. Maybe some redwood. I don't know what type of wood Donald Trump likes, but it looks fancy. With a fancy bed and a fancy television set and probably a chandelier. It looks super nice. But to the more observant person, they notice that the big, fancy, comfy chair in the middle of the room is equipped with shackles. Donald Trump's best friend leads Trump. Come here, Donnie. Come here. Take a seat in the chair. I know you're not feeling well since tonight's gonna be a full moon. And Donald Trump's like, why do I have this curse? And the friend goes, I don't know. Actually, we do know why he has this curse. But the friend is like, I don't know. He doesn't really want to get involved in the conversation for the nth time. But he goes, Donnie, take a seat in this chair. I'll start putting on your silver shackles. Oh, why do they have to be silver? It burns. The burns are huge. That's why my hand has a big mark on it, see? There's proof of this story. Well, Donnie, if you would stop causing so much trouble on full moons, you're like, is he a werewolf? You've already said. I've already mentioned it at the beginning. It's the title of the episode. It's not a mystery. Is Donald Trump going to turn into a werewolf? Donald Trump's best friend is shackling him in very, very slowly, narrating each step of the way. First, I clamp this onto your ankle. Clink. Eventually, Donald Trump is completely secure in this chair, and unfortunately, he is giving the ultimate humiliation. He has to wear a silver jaw faceplate. So it's like this thing that if you walked into this room in the middle of the night, not middle of the night, if you walked into this room, say at 6 o'clock in the afternoon, you would see Donald J. Trump chained to a chair wearing what looks like a silver furry mask, snout and all. You get lost on the tour of the White House and you're like, oh, is this the way to the restroom? You open the door up, you see Donald Trump shackled to a chair wearing a silver furry mask, and you're like, it's not the bathroom. I think I just peed my pants. I think that's the scariest thing ever. You shut the door. Because what happens is when the full moon comes about, Donald J. Trump turns into a werewolf. Man to beast, person to plunderer of flesh, dude becomes The dead-making thing. The thing that kills people. A dead-making machine. Donald J. Trump, President of the United States, is actually a werewolf. Now, this is a very interesting conspiracy theory. First off, I got to give a tip of the hat to longtime supporter of the show and active member of the Patreon Discord, Pwn the Monkeys. He's the one who sent this over to me. And it's an interesting story because we can look at it both from a conspiracy theory angle and then from a historical angle. Because, let me just start laying this out. Have you ever seen Donald Trump out during a full moon? No. Right? You're like, I don't think you saw Obama. I was like, yeah, he was the Wendigo. They're all some sort of hideous monster. But think about it. Have you ever seen Donald Trump out even at night? Think about all the photos of him, all the videos of him. Have you ever seen him with the night sky above his head? He's attended events at night, you can assume. But I don't think there's any footage of him outside at night. So that, you're like, Jason, that's pretty flimsy evidence. So hold on. What have you even seen a lot in the news lately? Oh no, Donald Trump has a mark on his hand. He's dying. That's the latest one. A couple weeks ago, it was Donald Trump has these weird marks on his ankle. He's dying. And I have a couple things to say about that. One, dude, we're like 4 months into this dude's presidency, okay? You gotta, slow your roll. We can't pay attention to every blemish on him. Two, where was all this when Biden was president? We were watching him turn into the Crypt Keeper on live television. No one said anything. Three, he's old. I mean, I think at this point he's one of the oldest presidents. So I think by saying the president's dying, I'm not making a threat. That's kind of a factual statement at this point. But four, all of those marks could be caused by the aging of a man who has not only the most stressful job in the world, but loves McDonald's. Not the healthiest food to be eating. I do enjoy my McDonald's, but let's be honest. It's going to cause your ankles to look weird if you eat enough of it. But all of those things could also be explained by silver chains applied to a werewolf. So the two facts we have right now. One, never seen at night. I know a bunch of people are going to email me photos of him at night. I'm all deep fake, AI. You don't see him at night. You've definitely never seen him at a full moon. I want somebody to find a legit non-ChatGPT photo of him with the full moon in the background. It doesn't exist. And it's funny because you go, yeah, I don't think I've ever seen a president walk around at night. That's weird too, if you think about it. But anyways, he has marks on his body where you would restrain a beast with monstrous strength. Okay, that's it. That's kind of it, right? But here's the thing. You're like, do people disappear when they go to the White House? Maybe, right? Maybe he ate Jeffrey Epstein. That was the minute missing from that video. It was this werewolf walking into a jail cell. Hey, Jeffrey, supper time. We should find out. Actually, I'm going to do this right now. I'm going to find out the day Jeffrey Epstein died. We're going to find out if it was a full moon that night. Give me 1 second. I'll obviously edit it all out. It's going to be 5 minutes of me going, interesting. And then I start watching YouTube videos of the new Tron trailer. Let's see here. It wasn't. You're all disappointed, I know. I was all like, dude, wouldn't that be awesome? No, it wasn't. The full moon wasn't until 5 days later. It was a waxing gibbous moon. So maybe if he shapeshifted into a gorilla, that would make sense, but he doesn't. He's a werewolf. So, 2 out of 3, but that last one I just came up off the top of my head. Forget that one, that wasn't actually a piece of proof. We have 2 indisputable pieces of proof that Donald Trump is a werewolf. 1, no photos of him with the full moon out. 0, they don't exist. I didn't fact check that, but I feel very confident in saying that. 2, Donald Trump, weird markings on his body line up with a beast being restrained. You're like, Jason, I'm sure his liver's not doing great either. Do they strap his liver down as well? I don't know. He could be that violent when he's trying to get out of the chair. But more importantly than any of those, Donald Trump is actually, this is true, kind of. It's very, very interesting the way this article was written. Donald J. Trump is related, very, very high likelihood, was related to one of history's most brutal real-life werewolves. So we're going to go way back in time here to 1589, late 1589. We're in Germany now. We're in Germany now, and we're like, hey, hurry up, everyone, let's get to the courthouse. Come on, come on. And we hop in like a wagon. There's like a guy pulling a wagon full of hay. We jump in and mush. He's like, ah. We're whipping him on the back of the neck. To the courthouse, good sir. He's taking us out there because currently, well, not now, but in 1589 it was current, there was a trial of a notorious serial killer known as the Werewolf of Bedburg. And this killer, his name was Peter Stump. And historians go, we don't know if Stump was actually his real name or it was a nickname that just kind of stuck, because if it was, that would make more sense because he had a stump for a hand and no left hand. If that was his family name, then that, curses are real, and that would be one. Hey, I've named you Johnny Jump High. Whee! And your name's Peter Stump. He's like, huh, what? Maybe I live on a tree stump someday? And the dad's like, yeah, sure, whatever, son. Watch out, Johnny Jump High, he's coming back down. Peter Stump, he's actually so notorious, I thought I had covered him before. See, sometimes I'll go, this story's too famous, I don't want to talk about it, I think people know about it. But this gives a different spin to it, again, thanks to Pone the Monkey, so allows me to cover this story. So Peter Stump, what happened was, Peter Stump, he's a wealthy widow, father of 2 kids. He's on trial for being a serial killer. And like most trials at the time, his confession was brought about because of torture. He was being tortured, and they knew that he had committed these crimes, and he's like, I didn't do it, I didn't eat anybody. They're like, we didn't say you ate people, we said you killed people. He's like, oh yeah, sorry, I meant I didn't kill anybody, as he's licking his lips at the memories. They start torturing him. And they go, tell us what you did, tell us what you did. I didn't do anything. Okay, Johnny Jump High, it's your time to shine. Jump on his head multiple times. He's all, brother, no, okay, I'll confess. He gets tortured and he confesses. He goes, listen, when I was a little kid, I used to practice black magic. And I did it so much and I was so good at it that one day Satan showed up and he had a belt in his hands. And he goes, Peter, I'm going to give you this belt or girdle. One I wouldn't have a problem wearing around town. I mean, it does turn you into a bloodthirsty maniac. But I was like, look how fashionable I am. I wouldn't mind wearing a belt, but I would mind wearing a girdle. They're like, this girdle will turn you into Superman. You can save countless... never mind, it looks stupid. Has a little bustier, not keep it. Anyways, Satan gave him this belt that would turn him into a, quote, greedy, devouring wolf, strong and mighty, with eyes great and large, which in the night sparkled like fire, a mouth great and wide, with most sharp and cruel teeth, a huge body, and mighty paws. Oh, my furry listeners are all, a belt, you say? Does this belt still exist? I can deal with being a serial killer. I get mighty paws. Now, Peter said he was totally innocent, and it's funny because I read a couple articles about this guy in prepping for this story, and I couldn't find a reason as to why they singled him out. It's very interesting. And part of the problem is that this story is generally regarded as a true crime story, and that all of the fantastical elements are made up. They think that Peter was just a serial killer, and he didn't really turn into a wolf, and he didn't really have any of these powers. It was just what he confessed to under torture. A lot of the articles go from that angle. So you have to disregard everything he said while being tortured. So we're really not going to talk about that. We're going to focus on it being a true crime serial killer. But I kept reading these articles, and I go, but why him? Why did they single him out? And then I found out why, and I understood why the true crime articles didn't mention it. What happened was the reason why the people in town singled him out was because a group of hunters were hunting a wolf. Not necessarily the wolf that they thought was a werewolf, but just a wolf. And these hunters, they cornered it, and in front of a group of men, the wolf is standing there, out of breath. And they watch this wolf turn into Peter Stump. I'm like, okay, I guess that guy's a werewolf. There's no other way to explain that. A group of men said, we saw him shapeshift from wolf to man. And that is why Peter Stump was arrested, because there's multiple witnesses to that. See, the true crime articles leave all that stuff out. They just talk about him being arrested and the trial and the murders. But a group of people saw him shapeshift, and that is why they singled him out. And he did confess to all this stuff. I get it. Like, confessions under torture are inadmissible under most circumstances. But, you know, if you're giving details that only the killer would know, then you're the killer. You could take someone and torture them for days, and they're not going to be able to say, I used a 3-inch blade, and I severed his aorta, if he didn't know that. Sometimes investigators can leak, evidence and stuff like that. Sometimes that happens nowadays. But unless they did that, he knew a lot of details about the crimes. He did shapeshift in front of multiple witnesses. Again, that's kind of, you're guilty. You're obviously a werewolf. What happened was he got tortured and he went to trial and he told all this stuff. And he said for 25 years, so he was a young man when the devil gave him this belt. For the next 25 years, he began running around the countryside as a werewolf, eating lamb and goat and sheep. That wasn't enough to quell his bloodlust. He then began going out and killing kids. And not only kill them, he would eat them as well. He would grab kids kind of wandering around town or walking through the woods, anyone he could get. He wasn't super picky about it. And he'd run, and the kid would turn around, Next thing they know, they're being horribly murdered by this man, this werewolf, and then eaten. He'd leave the remains there and skulk off into the night. 14 kids, as well as 2 pregnant women. So he definitely had a thing about eating kids. Because he didn't just eat the pregnant women, he ate the babies inside of them. God damn it, Jason, your stuff. You're all, Donald Trump's a werewolf. Isn't this insane? 10 minutes later, and he ate unborn babies. I know, it's crazy, right? I probably should give you a little bit of warning before such a tonal change, but 14 kids, 2 babies, 2 pregnant women, they're all terrible. I'm not going to say one's worse than the other. But there is one that might be worse than all of those. And that was the day that Peter Stump was out walking with his son. His own son, Peter Stump loved so much. He loved him with all of his heart. But one day they were out walking and that bloodlust came into Peter's heart. He couldn't help himself, he said. I loved him so much. He hated the fact that he did this, but he couldn't control himself. He ended up walking out to the woods with his son, and then when they got far enough out, Peter put on the belt, shapeshifted into a mighty wolf, and ate his own son's brains. I think that's the worst of them. I think we can all agree. You're like, they're all bad. I don't know why you constantly are saying, well, what's worse? They're all terrible. Eating your own son's brains. Well, anyways, here's the thing. He could have had the bloodlust. He could have just left the belt at home. I think he did pre-plan this a bit. And this goes on and on and on until eventually a group of hunters corner a wolf and they watch the wolf shapeshift into Peter Stump. He also... You're like, oh, come on, man. Just end it. Just what happened to this guy? He's on trial. Did he get off? Is he still free? Is that Donald Trump? Did Peter Stump live this long? Also, he not only had a need to kill, but he also had an insatiable sexual appetite. So much so that he had a mistress, a local woman named Katharina, who was married to somebody else. He took her as a mistress, and Peter began having sex with his own teenage daughter. And Katarina and his daughter, Sybil, ended up being his accomplices in some of these crimes. They knew what he was doing. So they were all arrested, and they were all put on trial. On October 31st, 1589, Peter Stump is executed for his crimes, along with his daughter, Sybil, and his mistress, Katerina. They both were also killed on Halloween. One thing that is curious for the world of the paranormal is the belt has never been found. This belt that was delivered by the devil to Peter has never been found. Which, I mean, we talk about these haunted museums with an Annabelle doll and, what's the other famous doll? Henry or Jacob or Jojo. The other doll, Howard the doll, something like that. You have all these haunted places, but none of them have a belt from the devil. None of them. I go to these museums, I'm like, boo, boo, where's the bloodthirst belt? They're like, wait, sir, can you leave, please? I'm all bloodthirst belt. Where's the belt at? I'm sure one or two things could happen. It could be buried underneath 5 pounds of soil somewhere out in Germany right now. Or a collector may have gotten it. That definitely would be a very sought after item, either by another magic user or by someone who collected these artifacts. I believe, you have stuff like Annabelle the doll, you have these haunted, cursed objects. But then I do believe that there is an elite market, just like there is for art, where truly powerful items are held in secret hands, whether they're government-owned or whether it's private collectors. Objects that would make Zach Bagans' Haunted Museum look like Legoland. And I don't think that's a recent phenomenon. I think people have been collecting stuff like this for ages. So it's possible that it was passed down through a family, either by a collector or through a magic user. It's also possible that somewhere out there in Germany it's there, hidden, never retrieved. It's also possible that it's just destroyed at this point, just worn away. But the belt's never been found, or has it? We'll get to that in a second. It hasn't. But I mean, it's for my Trump conspiracy. You're like, oh yeah, I forgot about the whole Trump thing. I kind of forgot about all the jokes when you brought up the pregnant women and his son. I know. Sorry about that. Anyways, so, nowadays people, like I said, it's a lot in the true crime community. They go, it's mass hysteria, it's a witch hunt. Like I always say, it's not a witch hunt if they actually catch some witches. Well, they caught a werewolf this time. Some people say it was just mass hysteria. The fact is that a bunch of people did die. That part's true. True crime stories go, he did kill these people. We do really think that he killed these people. What does any of this have to do with Trump, though? There was an anthropologist from Biola University in Southern California named Dr. Kevin Piddle. And he wrote up this document or research paper, whatever the technical term is for it. And he goes, listen, I'm going to say something that's really weird. And I'm not 100% saying that it means anything, because I don't want to get fired. I don't want to lose my job. I don't want to be attacked by a werewolf in the middle of the night. I don't want to specifically say this is true. However, as a scholarly exercise, as a historical exercise, this all lines up. He goes, one, we know, looking at the old documents, the court transcripts and all that, Katerina's name, her last name was Trump. It was Katerina Trump. And we know that in Donald Trump's family, there is a Katerina Trump. We know that this Katerina Trump and his family tree lived in Germany, as most of his family came from there. I think a good chunk of his family tree's from there. We do know that the Katerina Trump in his family tree is from Germany. We do know the general area where his ancestor lived, and we do know the general time when his ancestor lived. And it is in the same area and the same time as the Katerina Trump who was involved in the Werewolf of Bedburg murders. In fact, according to all historical records from that time in that area, there is only one Katerina or Katharina. I could be mispronouncing it. That's my fault. That's not the author's fault. Sorry, historians and people who prefer names pronounced correctly. Donald Trump's ancestor, Katerina Trump, there was only one person who went by that name in that area at that time, and it was the exact same woman who was involved in these murders. It's not like, there's hundreds of Jason Carpenters spread across the United States and dozens in the state of Oregon. So 500 years from now, you might kind of look at stuff and go, well, it could have been any of these dozen related to this to this floating head who still continues to put out a podcast. He's on episode 8 million. We don't know how he's doing it. But there's not really much wiggle room here. Katarina Trump's last child, her third child, Hans Trump II, was born in Walhausen, which was a 2-day trip from Peter Stump's hunting grounds. And that child was born 4 years after the first murders began. At that point, Katarina Trump was involved with Peter Stump. Kevin writes this in his paper. He goes, quote, "The speculative hypothesis," again, he's very clear he doesn't want to get murdered on a full moon. "The speculative hypothesis that one of Donald Trump's distant ancestors, Hans Trump II, was the love child of his mother, Katharina Trump, and the accused werewolf Peter Stump, has allowed our team to notice a number of important points in historical records." It goes, "While Donald Trump's ancestress is the only person still on record who has the right name in the right place and at the right time of the Katarina Trump implicated as the werewolf's accomplice and lover, this speculative possibility is merely a placeholding device," unquote. So again, it's very interesting because all of the facts line up, but he doesn't want to say 100% that Donald Trump is one of two things. Okay, and they're both bad. Either one of his ancestors, if Hans Trump Jr., if Hans Trump II was a love child, Peter Stump was the dad. And he goes, Donald Trump is either a descendant of one of the most notorious child-eating serial killers to ever walk the planet. That's not a good thing to run on. Right? Nobody wants that guy as your president. Well, some people might. But not enough to win an election, right? He gets 4 votes, all from other child-eating cannibals. Donald Trump is either related to a notorious serial killer who ate brains, right? Okay? Or, that's the best case scenario. The worst case scenario is Katarina Trump had a baby with a man who was a werewolf. And that would make Donald Trump the descendant of a werewolf. And I would say this, a woman who is willing to have an affair with a man who she knows eats children, and she knows is a werewolf, I could probably bet money that she had sex with him as a werewolf. I'm sure she said, "Put on the belt, honey. Put on the belt. I want to have sex with the werewolf you." Which isn't even no proof of that. You just like that theory? Because it's super disturbing and creepy. A woman having sex with a werewolf. Well, I'm just making an educated guess. She doesn't seem like the most upstanding citizen. She did know her boyfriend was eating brains and did nothing about it. So then, is he related to a werewolf, or is he actually werewolf sperm? Is Donald Trump, you know what I mean? If you put on the belt and became a werewolf, and you had sex with a woman, now that's totally a werewolf baby. If you just were occasionally a werewolf, all werewolves are occasionally werewolves, but if you were in human form and had sex with a human, and then that's a human baby. But if you were in your werewolf form and you had sex with a woman, it's a werewolf baby. Biology. I learned about that in biology class. Look it up, guys. It's true. Whatever the case, Donald Trump is either related to a serial killer or a werewolf. There's no good options. And then I wonder, they say the belt disappeared, but is it possible that it was simply hidden? It wasn't going to just disappear into history. In fact, some people might consider it a family heirloom, passing it down generation to generation. And now Trump has it. Well, you're like, okay, well, that's terrifying. You're like, I was going to go to this meet and greet with Trump the other day, but I'm going to sell my ticket. I'm scared he might try to eat my brains. You go, Jason, yeah, that's fascinating, interesting. Your best episode ever. And I go, oh, thank you. I'm glad you still enjoy the show. You go, but couldn't Donald Trump just take the belt off at this point? If the belt is what turns him into a werewolf, he could probably just take the belt off. If he is tired of being dressed up as a chrome-clad furry every full moon, strapped down to a chair so he can't escape and devour the residents of D.C., he could just take the belt off. Well, possibly. That would be good. That would answer a lot of their, like, Mr. President, for devoting a lot of resources to keeping you from eating brains. You think he could take the belt off? And he goes, no, it's a girdle, actually. If he took it off, he's all, blah. All that McDonald's packed in, you got to wear that girdle. But, what if it's not just the belt for him? What if it is that raw werewolf DNA coursing through his veins? Even without the belt, he may have to take measures to not become an unstoppable beast that preys on the populace. A fascinating conspiracy theory, one that does have a clear historical origin. The question is, how far has the curse carried down the family line? Is President Trump truly a bloodthirsty beast? And it is only by the dedication of those closest to him that the beast is not unleashed. DeadRabbitRadio@gmail.com is going to be our email address. You can also hit us up at Facebook.com/DeadRabbitRadio. TikTok is @DeadRabbitRadio. Dead Rabbit Radio is the daily paranormal, conspiracy, and true crime podcast. You don't have to listen to it every day. I'm glad you listened to it today. Have a great one.